All right, we're going to talk about some of the weird things in the Bible. Perhaps one of the most interesting things. This is what I would say probably is one of the most important things. There are some weird things, and we'll get to those, and a lot of Old Testament stuff, and a lot of things that, man, if we really, really delved into those, we'd really, really have some insights. But here we go. This is a very, very common scripture. This is probably one of the most important scriptures that I could offer. There are just some passages that really will speak to you. This is ideal for you if you're coming out of like a toxic relationship. And really, on this channel, I'm doing a lot of talking about relationships in general. It says you'll know when a relationship is right for you, when it will enhance your life, not complicate your life. As a general rule, the relationships that we have in life, and the books we read, and the places we go, that really speaks to most of our happiness. In fact, there's an old saying that if I get to know your friends, I get to know you. So if I get to know you and you're around a bunch of mean girls, guess what? I know a little bit about you. You can learn so much about people from the things they do for recreation, the way they do recreation. In fact, there's a quote that says, watch a man in play for an hour and it's worth more than 1,000 hours of conversation. Like, imagine instead of hiring a CEO in some sort of formal way, you just took them to the golf course, you took them surfing. You can learn so much about people and the way they play, the books they read, the books they don't read, and also the people that they keep company with. So here you go. This is the book of Philippians. It says, this is so important, again, coming out of religion. And let me talk to you about why that's important. Coming out of religion, because today we like to say, everybody likes to say that I'm religious, or I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. It's almost become kind of a cliche to say, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. What does that really, really mean? Well, let me give you some Fibonacci definitions of what religion is. And again, I'm 40 years old, so I've seen all kinds of religion. I've seen it from my own background, which is very cultish. I've seen it in every camp has a religious spirit, if you want to call it that. So what does religion look like? Well, number one, the Fibonacci definition, and this basically is how do you recognize religion? Because we always like to think religion is the other guy, but it's never us. So here you go. Number one definition of religion is that God is hostile. The first paramount benchmark cornerstone of religion is that God is a hostile God. He's abandoning. And you can learn a lot about your relationship with God by looking at your relationship with your parents. And if I were to come talk to you, I would say, okay, give me 4 or 5 adjectives that describe your honest relationship with your parents. And that's generally the God that you'll create and you'll serve for the rest of your life. For me, I kind of grew up in a really interesting way. I had a lot of, I could tell you my story later. Everybody has a crash story. So moving into toxic religion was just a natural evolution from a toxic family to toxic religion. So number one is you have to have a hostile God, an abandoning God, an enemy God. And the second thing is you have to believe, or what is taught in religion, is that your desires are bad. Your desires are bad. And that's a critical step, because the next one is, once you got God is an enemy, God is bad, your desires are bad. The next step, in every denomination has a different rule, a different list of rules to accomplishing the third step. But the third step is this, is that now your job as, quote, a Christian, a believer, whatever they want to call you, is your job is now to try to make this hostile God happy, and certainly not moving into your heart's desires. So here you go. Until you read the Bible or you watch this channel. And it says here, I found this is Philippians 2, and this is one of the reasons why I would really recommend you read this passage in the Amplified. It says, not in your own strength, everybody knows that, for it is God who is all the while effectually at work in us, energizing and creating in us the power and the desire to will and to work for the good and pleasure and the satisfaction and delight. Read that again more slowly. It is God. And remember, I said earlier, there's stardust in you, and that stardust, named God, whatever you want to call it, whatever gender you want to ascribe to it, stardust is going to create desires, and it's going to work. And these desires are going to have longings that will you will want to move into what brings you happiness and satisfaction and delight. And it's not so much you, it's the stardust within you. and that God is creating his desires through your desires, this interplay between our desires and God's desires. And the more we fan the stardust, the more we move into what is authentically our pleasure and our delight. And I love that because it re-owns the heart, or it reestablishes that the delight, the things in your hearts that bring you true delight, true satisfaction, and true pleasure, that's actually the stardust. In fact, if you want to see a really good example of this played out in real life, go watch the movie Chariots of Fire. In fact, I find God so much in cinema, and I would love, I think I could do so much good by just having movie night with churches. In fact, if you would like me to have a movie night with your church, where I'm bringing perhaps a secular movie, I hate to use that term, and showing you another side of God through cinema. I think God is speaking through cinema in big, big ways. At least to me, he is, or she is. In fact, go watch the movie Chariots of Fire. And in that movie, there's a line in there that's straight out of Philippians 2. And it's the line where he says, "When I run, I feel God's delight. When I run, I feel God's delight." And here's a man in arduous Olympic, and he's like, "When I run, I feel his delight." He feels God's pleasure when he runs. And that's the way our lives are supposed to be. We're supposed to feel God's delight. And that's expressed primarily through the things that bring us delight and pleasure and satisfaction. And it's not even us, it's God desiring it through us. We just get to come along for the ride. And interesting, Philippians 2, remember, I want to be the person I didn't have. You're probably not going to hear that in your modern day church. But I want to be the person I didn't have. And that's a lot of these videos is really me just being the person that I didn't have. And I didn't have a lot of good Bible teaching, a lot of honesty. I didn't have pastors or teachers speaking and say, "Hey, go watch this movie, Chariots of Fire, dude. Go watch that movie." And that's how your life is supposed to be. You may not want to be an Olympian runner, but there may be something else that brings you delight and pleasure. That's that's the Stardust talking. You got to listen to Stardust, baby. Fibonacci. Listen to me, maybe. All right, you guys have a great day. Email me, Americana417@gmail.com. You know the drill. Email me, Americana417@gmail.com. I've already had my coffee. Done my Bible lesson. Now I'm going to go for my meditative walk. In fact, for me personally, I'm going to really marinate on this right here. Sometimes you just got to find some different things. I got to find this right here. It says, "Faithful is he who is calling you." Faithful is he. That's kind of where I'm at right now, personally. Faithful is he calling you, and utterly trustworthy. There you go. I just like the fact that it talks about God is faithful and he's utterly trustworthy. Not just trustworthy, but utterly trustworthy. And for me in my journey, in this Chariots of Fire, I have my own path, my own journey. And man, sometimes I got to come back, I have to remind myself, John, it's the Stardust doing this. It's utterly trustworthy. You're just coming along for the ride. Email me, Americana417@gmail.com. Harmonize with the Stardust today, baby. Harmonize with the Stardust. In your own personality, in your own way, your own uniqueness, harmonize. Holla.